let's start right into it. Streamlining batch link, we're going to learn about how to break up a large batch link job into several smaller batches. Course description basically says the same thing. I thought I did large projects until I came to XCON this year and I learned about what everybody else is doing, and I think, oh, my projects are actually small. In this course, I'm going to talk a little bit about how batch link works in the background, some of the things that we don't see. We're going to learn how to create new search terms for batch link that are not strictly based on the files that you put in your set. And we're also going to talk a little bit about PowerShell and how you can use it to process text and process files. So a little bit about me. My name is Joshua Draper. I work for Worley, and until earlier this year, we were known as Worley Parsons. We have about 60,000 people in about 50 countries, and we do mostly industrial work. So we are heavily involved in the oil and gas market, in the mining and minerals market, and also in the power industry. And we do greenfield jobs, we do brownfield jobs, and we do everything from helping our customers define the concept of what they want to build or what they want to upgrade, all the way through the detail engineering. We help manage construction, and we, in some cases, also operate the plants for our customers. I have been a review user for about 6 years regularly. I am currently working as a project engineer in my company, and I have a civil engineering background. Before I was a civil engineer, I did a lot of computer programming and was the IT officer for my company. So this unique, maybe not so unique now that I come to this conference, but this, in my company, unique combination of IT background plus engineering background made me a good fit for this particular solution. But before we talk about the solution, let's talk about the problem. Now, I started on my project, and I'm sorry I can't tell you any details about the project, but when I came on, I had an interview with the customer project manager, and he said, Josh, wherever you see a drawing number, I want that to be a clickable hyperlink. I thought, oh great, no problem. We'll buy Revu Extreme, I'll run it, I'll be good to go. And then later on, I found out that the package had over 6,000 files in it. I thought, oh my goodness, how's this gonna work? Will it work? Well, before we get into the challenge of big packages, let's talk about just general challenges that anybody might have when running batch link. The first challenge is duplicates. Some of you, in fact, I showed this slide to one of my colleagues, and when I told her that these are not the same girl, she told me, you're lying. Because actually what we have on the right is Mary, and on the left, her twin sister Myra. And if I call them the wrong name, they let me know. Similarly, when I get drawings from engineers, I get drawings that maybe look like it's a duplicate, but maybe not. So what I've done here is I've copied the file names from the folders into Excel. I've used Excel to highlight the duplicates in red. And let's look at some of these duplicates. On the top line, we have a drawing number Rev H. And 3 lines down, we have the same drawing number Rev G. So the content is potentially different. And I don't really want batch link to look at both files or link to. And when you put this in batch link, it's going to ask you, well, which one do you want? Do you want the old one or the new one? So my solution is to get rid of the duplicate files before I even start the batch link process. To me, that's the easiest way, because then even if I have to start batch link over again, that duplication removal is already done. I don't have to worry about that anymore. What I do is I use Excel with some formulas to just get the path that I've already saved there, and then make a delete command that I can paste into either the command shell or, in my case, PowerShell. So you paste it into PowerShell and you click the little green run button once you are in the right directory, and that will delete the files. So this is not the only way to get rid of files, but For me, since I'm a old-time Unix junkie, I do a lot of stuff on the command line. For me, this is an easy way. But really, as long as you can identify which files are duplicate and delete them, that kind of solves your duplicate problem. Next challenge is discipline and consistency. In my company, we have a lot of engineering disciplines. We have process engineers, we have electrical engineers, we have instrumentation and control engineers, civil, structural, architectural, material applications, piping designers. And so, as you can imagine, we got a lot of people putting a lot of stuff on drawings. And people are not good at being consistent. That's why every religion has daily rituals. That's why every productivity podcast is telling you, develop the habits. If you want to go, make it into a habit. Once you get good at repeating that habit, then you can get your success, right? We're always being told to repeat things because we're not good at doing it by ourselves. What does that look like in my package? So the typical way to refer to a drawing is you have 2 letters and then 6 numbers, that's the drawing number, and then the sheet number is the 3 numbers on the end, and we typically separate those with hyphens. And this is what most of the drawing references look like. But the architectural group decided they wanted to use periods to separate the drawing number from the sheet number. And the piping group, this is the process group, they decided they were just going to run it all together. And the piping group decided to make it really clear that they were talking about the sheet number on the end. As a person, we can look at each of these different variations and know, okay, they mean this other drawing. But the computers are not that smart. We have to tell them how to recognize it. So this is what you do. Well, first of all, let me get a show of hands. Who in here has never used BatchLink? Raise your hand. All right, well, you're at a disadvantage because I'm not going to go over the basics of how to set up BatchLink. But let me tell you a little bit about how you start it. You basically say, review, I want to do a new BatchLink process, and it says, okay, well, where are the files? Which files and folders do you want to work on? Once you tell it that, then it says, okay, well, what am I supposed to look for? And then you can generate search terms based on file names, which is what I do, or you can actually have it open each drawing and look in a part of the drawing that you select and say, look here for the drawing content, or maybe it's based on the page labels that you've preset up. So that's kind of how you start the BatchLink process. So when you get to the part where you're generating the search terms, it looks like this. So once you have clicked this generate button that's up here, you wait a while and you get these search terms. But this is only the first convention. It's only one way of designating the drawings and documents. So what you can do is you can actually export this using the export button to a CSV file, which is a file you can open in Excel. But CSV is also plain text. And so I open it in a text editor. My favorite text editor is Vim. There have been numerous holy wars about the best text editors, so we won't go into which one is better than the other. But what I will say is whatever text editor you choose, make sure it supports regular expressions. Who here has heard of regular expressions? Oh good, a handful of us. Regular expressions, for those of us who haven't been introduced to them, is a way of describing patterns of text that you want to match, instead of describing exactly what you want to search for and replace. So in this example, instead of doing a search for TA-63389-001, and then doing another search for the next drawing and doing another search for the next drawing, what I've done is I have used a regular expression. Now the highlighted part in yellow at the top is what matches what's in the yellow box below. Basically it says, give me any 2 characters, followed by a hyphen, followed by any 6 characters. And the parentheses say, whatever you find like that, save that in a group. And regular expressions actually match the whole line. So the first 3 lines, they're not gonna match because they don't match the pattern. The next thing I have in my search string is a hyphen, it's a literal hyphen. So I gotta have what I said first, followed by a hyphen, followed by any 3 characters, which I'm gonna save in the second group, followed by a comma, followed by anything after that, all the way to the end of the line. $sign means end of the line. So now what I've done is I've saved the drawing number, the sheet number, and the file name for any matching line. So this is if you've never done regular expressions before, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, what the heck is this? But with practice, it gets easier. Then this simple command, I run this, and it performed 4,402, 444, can't talk today, over 4,000 substitutions, and it took that long, literally, that long. So now, when you come back and look at it, what you see is the result. So now, in the replacement string, in this text editor, ampersand means put back whatever you found. So line 4 is the original way of calling out drawings. The next line, we're looking at in the replace string, the /r in this text editor means put it on the next line, and then the /1 period /2 gives us that variant where the sheet number is designated by a period, and then we just put in the rest of the line for the file name. Similarly, we do the same thing for the SHT period variant, and where the process guys ran it all together, we just put 1, 2, 3 together, and then we get that back. So with very little effort, we have now accounted for all of the different ways that the engineers have decided to reference their drawings. It took me longer to explain it than it did to do it. So we end up with now 4 lines where we used to only have 1. So we save this text file and we go back to review. We say import. We import this batch link CSV file that we just edited. And now you can see that these terms, they show up in the review interface. So this is how I handle the inconsistencies caused by people. I just haven't gotten all the cats to go in the same direction yet. All right, those are the general challenges that you can run into no matter what you're doing with batch link. Now, my specific challenge was dealing with a huge document set and not enough time. This is almost always my challenge. Customers never give us enough time. By the time they figure out what they want, it's almost too late to give it to them. First of all, let's look at some statistics about this set of drawings and documents. It actually was about 6,500 files, and when I combined them all into one, it was over 53,000 pages. And after accounting for all the variations in the search terms, there were almost 20,000 different terms, if you will, or kinds of drawing numbers that Revu had to look for. And since it has to do that on all of the 53,000 pages, we're talking about over 1 billion searches that have to be done to make BatchLink successful on this package. So I started it. Okay, let's go. After 8.5 days, it was 1/3 of the way done. And I said, oh my goodness, this is definitely going to take too long. I got to figure out another way to make this work. Now notice, this might be too small for you to see, but it says 32,000 plus hyperlinks were created. So this now defines my success criteria. If I have 32,000 search terms and I only have 1/3 of the files done or the time lapsed, I don't know which one at this point, then when I'm done with batch linking everything, I have to have more than 32,000 files. Would you agree? Or 32,000 links. And if I want it to be successful, it's got to take less than the 3 weeks it looks like this is going to take. Right? So those are the 2 criteria for success. I started thinking about it. What can I do? What can I do? Now, I don't know about your projects, but we often work with the same customers over and over again, and the customers give us their standards. So I thought, well, okay, the customer standards are never going to refer to my design drawings because they have to be generic. They have to be for every project that we do. So I don't have to worry about links from the customer standards to my design drawings. I only have to worry about the other way around. So maybe I could pre-link the customer standards at the beginning and then tell Revu to just skip those ones. It's like, this is a good idea. Let me try it. That's what I did. Opened up my batch link configuration. This is the screen where you pick the folders that a Revu is going to search for. So I went back and I deleted all these volume 5 folders. Those are the ones with the customer standards. So I said, let me just delete those out and tell Revu to go ahead and tell Revu to go ahead and search for all this stuff anyway. Well, so all these search terms right here that we can see, these are the ones for the customer standards, and we're getting a little warning saying, hey, the file that this is supposed to link to is not in the set of folders that you told me to search through. I thought, I know that because I just deleted those from your list. So I said, okay, let me run it anyway. And then I got this error. So there are 12,990 destinations that are scheduled that are invalid. These are going to be ignored. Would you like to continue? And I just said, oh, sadness. Because as you and I know, the destinations are perfectly valid. I just told Revu not to look at them. So I was like, well, maybe I'll get lucky. So I hit OK, and sure enough, they were ignored. No links to customer standards anywhere. Felt a lot like this person. How in the world am I going to do this? How am I going to make this happen in a reasonable amount of time? So I did what all good engineers do. I talked to everybody. Talked to all my friends, explained to them what was going on, talked to the Bluebeam support people. I went to a Bluebeam users group in Orange County, and I talked to some users there. I talked to some of the Bluebeam people that were there, and they said, no, we don't really know any way that you can do that. So I started thinking about it. What's my problem? My problem is that I don't want Revu to search through this file because it takes too long, but the file needs to be there so I can have a link to it. So basically I need like an empty file. And I thought, oh, I think I can do an empty file. So the solution. Now I've explained this to people in my company and I always get glazed looks so far. So I decided to try and make an analogy. It may not be perfect, but bear with me. Who here has ever been to a wedding? Raise your hand. Who here has ever helped plan a wedding? Oh wow, lots of you. I haven't. But I have watched other people as they plan it, and I've watched movies about wedding planners. And they have a beautiful concept. They have a concept of placeholders. So think about this for a minute. I can look at this table and I can know everybody who's supposed to be at this table. And I can see how Mark relates to Randy and Celia. And I can walk around the room and understand, and I can, if I put these placeholders out, then I can know who's over here and who's over there. So this is the concept. These empty files that I mentioned are gonna act as placeholders for the real files, for the purposes of running batch link on the files that I don't really need to care about, the customer standards. You follow me? Anybody lost? No, I wouldn't admit it either. It's okay. Okay, so what I did, I created a clicker that doesn't work. So I created an empty file. This is just a one page, 8.5 by 11, blank, nothing in it, completely empty. And I made a whole bunch of these, and I stuck them in a folder, and I run batch link on it, and it took about 30 seconds. And I thought, excellent, excellent, this is gonna work. But then, now my problem is not, how do I get Revu to skip the files? Now my problem is much like the wedding planner's problem when trying to put out the placeholders. Who's coming to the wedding? How do I know what file names I need to give to these placeholder files? All right, well, in my organization, we make lists of everything. So I used Excel. Because the engineers were already making a list of all the drawings that they were going to eventually put in the package and what revision numbers there were going to be and all that stuff, then I leveraged their Excel list. And we already saw that we can use Excel to compose commands that we can run in PowerShell or the command line. So I just basically used some formulas and some lookup tables in Excel. to build a list of all the names and locations to put these placeholder files. So here, these three things are the drawing number, the sheet number, and the revision number. This is all I need to make the file name. But I also need to know where in the package folder structure does everything need to go. So what I did was I also asked the engineers to list, okay, what area is this drawing for? What plant is this for? What discipline are you? And then I was able to create a cross-reference. So in this example, we're going to take the plant that these drawings are for. We're going to look at a cross-reference list here on the, what side is this? On the left, those are the names of the plants, and on the right, these are the names of the folders that you're going to find the plant drawings in. So using the match function, we can look up the plant name in the left column, and it returns the index number 9, that's where that was at, right? General was in 9. And then you can plug that 9 into the index column, which says, okay, look at this other column and give me the 9th thing. So that's how you pull out that's how you do a cross-reference. Has anyone ever used VLOOKUP? Okay? Index and match is the faster, more robust way to do VLOOKUP. So with that, I can compose my commands. I have my list of commands. I can basically copy my empty placeholder file and put it in the right place with the right name to build my empty package, if you will. So copy from Excel, paste into PowerShell, start at the right point, hit the little green run button, and there you go. Good to go. When you're done, it looks like a broken clicker again. I'll just stay down here. It looks like this. Got the files with the right names, they're in the right folder. They're all only 1 kilobyte each. That's how I can tell the difference between my placeholders and my actual drawings and documents. Because if it has actual content, it's definitely going to be bigger than 1K. So I said, let's try it out. Built the whole thing. Then I grabbed like 100 or so real drawings, put them in the right place, and ran review. Anybody want to guess how long it took to finish? Huh? I wish. You should come work for me. No, it took 4 hours for a small set. So I took it from 3 weeks to do everything all at once to doing a subset in 4 hours. That's the fastest I could do it. Now this is great. This is fantastic. I mean, I felt like Cherry. Now I can get my drawings, I can do the links, I can stick them in the folder. I can get more drawings the next day, I can stick them in I can do the links, I can stick them in the folder, and I can build up my package folder. So I was really excited. At this point, I felt like just standing up and cheering. So why don't you go ahead and do that? You go ahead and stand up and go, yes!
Yes.
All right, now while you're standing or sitting, either one, I want you to just turn to your neighbor and ask them what is the best thing about this conference so far.
What's the best thing about the conference so far?
His presentation?
His presentation, yeah.
That's my husband.
Yeah. Oh, I like it.
Yeah, so that might be.
How about yours?
Those are your daughters?
It is.
Yeah.
Beautiful kids.
Thank you.
Oh, all the presentations. I've learned something at each one. Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
You have kids?
Now all of those afternoon naps are over.
All
I have
boys.
5.
You have 5? Wow, congratulations.
So yeah, I was really excited.
boys?
Yeah, all boys.
I thought this was fantastic.
Try one more time.
But then
We're done.
real life once again hit me. Because now see, this is my plan. I was going to get some drawings from Civil today and run the links. I was going to get drawings from Process tomorrow and run links. And turns out engineers behave like they normally did. What happened? I got them all on the same day. Right? So now, even though I have a list, it doesn't do me any good because Now I have to deal with everything. Or what if you're one of those companies where you don't normally have a list before you make all your drawings? Like I've been on some smaller projects where we don't even know what the list of drawings is going to be until we finish the design, because it's going fast, right? So if you only have a bunch of drawings or files and you don't have a list, then what do? So I did a little Google search, right? And I found a guy who made a PowerShell script to basically replicate a whole directory. And so you can find this script that I'm using at this tinyurl.com/batchlink scripts. I've posted everything there for you. And we'll just go through it step by step. This is fairly simple. So the first command, xcopy. Now everything I'm using is built into Windows. You don't have to go buy anything. It's built into Windows. The first xcopy command is also built into Windows. And if you use these switches, the /e/t/i, then it will copy only the folders, but no files, which is really nice if you're just trying to get a folder structure to start with. And then after that, this PowerShell commandlet just starts at the top of the package folder, which in my case, we have the real package folder, and then we have the placeholder folder is the other one, right? So it just starts at the top of the real package folder and just goes through each folder and gets each file one by one. And once it gets the file, it gets the file name, the full path, and then the next part just chops off the beginning, gets rid of the real folder part, and adds the placeholder part at the beginning. So now I've got the same file name and the same relative location, but now for the placeholder set. And the next part just copies the empty PDF to that location with that name. So once you have this script, you can just edit the real folder, the real package and the placeholder paths, run it, and bam, you've mirrored the whole thing. It doesn't take very long. So I had an epiphany. If I can do a subset today, right? And I can do another subset tomorrow, why can't I just do a bunch of subsets today? Why can't I just do 3 or 4 sets at the same time? So I thought, okay, let me try it. Let's see what happens. So I made 4 placeholder sets. And then if this is my real package, then I just took part of it and stuck it in the first one, and part of it and stuck it in the second one, and so on and so forth. So I split up my real content amongst my placeholder files, so I wouldn't try to create links on the same file twice. And then this is the magic part. If you're running Revu, and you have it as the active window, then when you go to the taskbar icon, you can right click on it and get that little menu that pops up, and then you click on Revu 2018, and it'll make a second instance for you. So you can this is great even if you're doing other stuff besides BatchLink. Let's say maybe you have a set is processing some stuff over here and you need to do something, mark up a drawing in the meantime, you can open up a second instance, or a third or a fourth. So I opened up, in this case, 4 instances, and I started each one on a different placeholder set with some mixture of real drawings, right? And I said, go. I said, awesome. It's running. I came back 27 hours later, it was all done. And I thought, wow, from 3 weeks to 27 hours, that just seems too fast. That just doesn't seem right. So I went in and I started looking at the links that were created, and I found out that there were a bunch of links that were missing. And I thought, this is after I put it all back together, of course. I thought, what is going on here? This doesn't make any sense. So I did a little bit of digging, and I found out that the configuration file that you can save after setting up BatchLink, and this is what Revu uses to do the linking, it actually records the full path, the absolute path to the files. So even though I had set this up, made my placeholder files, copied them over 4 times, and then I ran BatchLink on the file that was in that folder, I never changed the paths. So all 4 instances of Revu were trying to work on the same folder of real content drawings. Now, why is this a problem? Well, the way Windows operating system works, whenever you open a file, the application that opens that file locks it. So what was happening was Revu 1, well, I'm going to call them Revu 1 through 4 for these different instances. Revu 1 opens the first file in the list and starts doing the search on the first page. In the meantime, Revu 2, it now tries to open the first file in the list because it's the same list. And it says, I can't open this because it's locked. And so it goes to the second file. And it starts doing its thing on the second file. And then now Revu 3, it tried to do file 1, can't do it. Tried to do file 2, can't do it. So it goes to file 3, and so on and so forth. Now, theoretically, this sounds like the perfect situation, right? You should be able to just run it all in the same package and it comes out nice. Well, unfortunately, theory doesn't match reality. I'm not sure exactly why, but when it got done, it did not have all the links that it was supposed to have. There were lots that were missing. So this is easy fix, right? You just do in each folder that you want to run it on, you just do search and replace in the config file to fix the paths, and you're done. That's the easy fix. Okay, so now I think I've got it. Let's run a test. Now remember how we can make multiple instances of Revu? I thought, well, let's just see how many I can do. So I did 10 instances. Why 10? Because when you try to do the 11th one, it tells you, oh, you can only do 10. So this is 10 instances of Revu. This is 8 days later, and look at the progress bars. Nothing has moved, all right? It's hard to see, but the CPU is at 100%. It was at 100% for the entire 8 days. Now this is a Xeon processor. It has 6 cores, are all hyper-threaded, so it has 12 logical processors. Base speed is 3.5 gigahertz. Turbo boost speed is 4.19 gigahertz, and it was at 4.19 gigahertz the whole time for 8 days. So the point is, it's too much for the machine. My buddy says, hey, why don't you go back to 4 and see if it'll work? So okay, I'll go back to 4. So this is when I set it up for 4. It took about 22 minutes to reconfigure for 4. Now the CPU is only at 77%, memory is under half utilized. So this is good. I'm no longer maxing out the machine, so this should be a pretty good test. This is what it looked like after 4 days. Everything's done. And yeah, you can't read anything on this projector. But if you look at if you could read the number of links, then you would see one says about 13,500, another one says 500, another one says almost 17,000, another one says about 14,000. So when we add all that up, then what we get is about 45,000 links. Now, what were my 2 criteria for success? I had to have at least 32,000 links, right? Well, this is more than 32,000 links. And when I went through and checked it, it seemed like everything looked the way it was supposed to. And it needed to be less than the 3 weeks that I forecasted it would take. And so I was really happy. Took a 3-week job for 1 billion searches, remember? It was probably going to take 21 days just doing it normally. Did it in 4 days with 4 instances of Revu, 45,000 links. So from a 3-week monolithic process, I can do it a subset in as short as 4 hours, or I can do the whole thing in parallel in 4 days. Huge win. Let's go through the procedure on how to do this. So the first thing is you have to create your placeholders, all right? Now, after you create you can either use the Excel list if you have one, or you can use the PowerShell script to mirror a package you already have. But in either case, you create your placeholders. After that, you need to go into one of your placeholder sets and start the batch link process in Revu to start setting it up, right? Pick the folders, generate your search terms. If you need to account for inconsistencies, then export your search terms to CSV, edit them, and then import them again. And then once you've got that set up, you want to save this configuration file. It saves as an XML file, which is text. Then you copy your placeholder sets as many times as you want to have instances of Revu. I don't recommend 10. I used 4, right? So then you go into each of those folders and you edit that XML file that you saved to fix the path to point to that folder and not the original one. Now you're ready to put some of your actual documents with content. Because remember, the whole point of this is to actually make links in your drawings and documents. And so we need to put the real drawings and documents, some of them, in each of the placeholder sets. Then you just launch an instance of Revu for each folder. When you start the batch link process, you can open a configuration file. Make sure you get the file for that folder. Otherwise, you're going to have that file locking problem. And then you run it. And when you're done, you have to carefully merge all the real drawings back together into one folder set. And that's it. Easy, right? No, it's not. It's definitely not easy. And it's not perfect. There are some pitfalls. Who here, and I'm really interested, who here has ever finished a design job or where you had to produce some documents or deliverables that, where you're not building it, but just documentation for your customer, and it was perfect the first time? Nobody. You all like me. I can't do it right either. Our team always has revisions and updates. So what do you get? Now that you've run your batch link process, you're really happy, right? Awesome, I got my huge package, everything is linked, everything is working the way it's supposed to do, and then you get the email. By the way, we revised these 10 drawings, and we bumped the revision number, which changes the file name, right? Well, obviously, you got to run batch link on those updated drawings, right? To make the links in those. But there's more to it than that. So this is what I call a link map. Now, each of these circles represents one of the files in your package. And the arrows represent the hyperlinks between them. So if one of your files is called RDF book mashup, and it gets revised, the revision number gets bumped, the file name changes. Well, look, the FOAF property files has a link to RDF book mashup. Now the link to RDF book mashup that's found in FOAF properties is broken, because you're going to take the old one out. You don't want to give 2 revisions of the same document. Similarly, the DBpedia file now has a broken link to this revised file. So what you really need is a way to know which files are linked to which, because I need to run batch link not only on my revised DBF matchup, I also need to rerun it on these other 2 files as well. So there is a way to do that. This is one example, but this example is very specific to my case. What this does is I had the designers batch convert all of their CAD files to the DXF format. The reason I use the DXF format is because I don't care necessarily what the drawings look like when that's done. DXF is a text-based file format, which means I can use PowerShell or something else to extract all of the drawing references. Remember those regular expressions that we talked about before? Well, this is doing the same, this is using those as well. So I'm just writing out a to and a from header on the first line, and then I get all the DXF files in a folder one by one. And this regular expression, it may look familiar. We got 2 characters and then a hyphen and 6 numbers and a hyphen and 3 more numbers. So anywhere it finds that, it's going to write that out to a text file. And that's the only reason you use DXF, is because it's text-based and you can quickly go through. In my particular case, I tried to use Revu to save the PDFs as text, and it didn't work because of the way that MicroStation was creating some of these PDFs. So the DXF worked out pretty good, but if you can get your link map another easier way, if the engineers can tell you, I know that this is how my drawings all refer to each other, that's better. You should do that. So this is what the script outputs. In this column, this is the file that it was looking through, and each of these other files are links. Sorry, that file has links. The from file has links to the two files. I put it in this order because this is what you need to know, right? If you replace this 69001-005 file, then you know you have to replace the 9, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. You're gonna have to replace this file as well. If any of these files on the left get changed, then you also have to do the sheet number 1. So that's the point. All right. Now this is the final screen in BatchLink, and a lot of times you just click Finish and Close. But you can also click on this Details. Now where I'm going with this is I talked to the Revu engineers yesterday, and I said, look, there's a few ways you could make this easier for us. I won't go into the details, but it wouldn't be very hard if they wanted to make this whole process a lot easier for this particular problem. The reason I say that is because this is what you see, this is Revu's output in the details, and notice on the top line, it's a file link, and it has outbound links and inbound links. It has counts. That means Revu knows what is linked to what. So I've explained this to the Revu engineers, and they get it. I've asked them to try to make us a link map. You know, if you can give us this much, why can't you write out the rest of it? Don't know if they'll do it, but at least I've asked for it. So if that's something you want, put in some feedback to the support team. All right, so to summarize, I saved over 2 weeks by running BatchLink in parallel versus the normal way. And a blank PDF file will work as a placeholder file. Now the amount of effort it takes to set this up and put it back together when you're done, it's not trivial. I probably spent, the first time I did it, probably a whole day figuring this out and putting it back together. Now that I know how to do it, it takes 2 to 3 hours depending on how complex I want to make it. So this is not something that you're going to want to use every day on your small sets. But if you have a big set and you have a time crunch, this can definitely help you. Because for that day that you're spending, you're buying about 2 weeks in this case. Any questions? Yes?
You spoke about splitting your files into different subgroups. Were those subgroups looking at all of the files and it was just a smaller set of files that they were looking to create the links? Or were they smaller subgroups to look and search for all terms that were underneath?
Yes, yes. So when I split up my real content files, and I put them in my placeholder files, I'm doing that because I want to have Revu search through each page of each file from the real content and make a link to something else wherever it sees it, right? And the reason why I put it in the placeholder set is so that wherever the real file has a mention of another drawing, if I only have a placeholder, that link will be created. Revu will say, yeah, that file's in what I'm supposed to look at, so I'll create that link. So yeah, when I'm splitting up my real content, it's because that's what I want Revu to actually create links in. Does that make sense?
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
Was there some metric that you used to determine how much was too much?
Just trial and error. Just trial and error. And each computer system is going to work differently. I have a Xeon processor which is optimized for parallel processing. If you have an Intel Core anything, it's really optimized for single threaded processes. And so your experience about how many instances to run versus how many files are in each instance is going to be different than mine. So you'll just have to see what works. Yes?
How many hours do you think you spent from cradle to grave and from start to finish?
Probably to figure all this out and try it and learn and come up with where I am now, probably about 20 hours of work and a bunch of background thinking.
Yeah.
Good question. Yes?
What was that? So you said 20.
I'll go back to that. Let's see, let me try it this way. Here you go. Yeah, tinyurl.com/batchlinkscripts. Thanks. Any other questions? Anybody feel overwhelmed? Yeah, this is a lot, and it's a bit esoteric until you get into it, but it's really there's a lot of details and a lot of pieces to put together, but the concept is pretty simple. Just use empty files as stand-in for bigger files that take longer to search through. Oh, and I'll answer a question that wasn't asked. I did some other testing, so I went through and I added more search terms to this set. So I went from 20,000 search terms up to 30,000 search terms, right? And then I tried 5 instances on that set, and I started that 14 days ago. It's still running. So I think that maybe I need to go back to 4 instances. But what I've noticed is, and this makes sense mathematically, right? If you increase the number of search terms, that's going to have a bigger effect on the time than increasing the number of files without changing the number of search terms. For example, if you're looking through 5 files and you have 10 search terms, so you have to do 50 searches, right? 10 for each file. But so if you add 5 more files, instead of 50 searches, now you're doing 100 searches. But if you add 5 more search terms, now you have, let's see, 10, what do we have first? 10 first, then 15. So I can't do arithmetic, but I hope that makes it more clear. Let's start with easier numbers. If you have 2 search terms and 10 files, you're going to go to 20. So you got 20 searches. If you got 4 search terms and 10 files, now you have 40 searches. But if you have 2 search terms and 15 files, now you only have 30 searches. Right? So as you increase your number of search terms, the time really goes up a lot faster. Any other questions about anything else? You still have me for another 12 minutes. If not, then we'll let you go early and enjoy your day.